Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to build some columns. So what I'm going to do very quickly, I'm just going to hide all the links for the time being, just so I don't have, I can just focus on the building itself, and we can focus on the front of the building as well. So I'm going to duplicate your 3D view. You've made some duplicates. Are these very deliberate in the sense that...
Those are just small views that I
Okay.
need to delete actually.
Okay, so this one I'm just going to duplicate again, duplicate with detailing. And I'm going to call this, rename this guy, and I'll call this guy WK for working. WK. Cool. Good. So I'm going to focus on, so let's grab, so I'll just grab some of the entrance. So let's grab that one. Control, 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 control. And I'll grab some of these as well, just so that we know. Good. So I'm going to use that and isolate. So I'm going to use that as my section box, and then I'm going to say isolate element. Okay. Then what I'll do, VG, I'm just going to go and isolate. So I'm going to say all off. I'm going to go to structural columns, structural framing, and I'm going to show floors. I just want to work with this information for now. Okay, because we've got that. Here's the front line of our building. Okay. So in essence, well, okay, let's just go to VG again. I'm just going to switch on generic. Now we can make this a generic model to begin with, but at any point we can change it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look straight at this guy, just like that. Now in the floor plan view, what I do in the floor plan, which would be level 0, I take it, and you're coming in here. You can create a reference plane where it starts, but maybe I'm going to use this grid F as my construction plane from where to work. Okay, so in 3D working, I'm going to go to 3D view.
Just like the side that leans forward is on grid A.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, let me just make sure again. Let's go back there again. Ah, it's on this side here.
Yeah.
Okay, so my bad. So it is on grid A. Good. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say set work plane and grid A. And if I say show, okay, there's my working plane. I can go to back view, look straight at it. Very easy. I'm going to go to component, model in place, and I'm going to make this a generic model. For now, I can change it later. Okay, so I'm going to say, cool. Now with this, I'll actually start modeling very generically. I can cut away stuff I don't need, but I just want to start the process and get it kind of going. Okay, so I'm going to use this exact spacing between here to kind of create. So I'm going to go extrusion. I'm going to create a rectangle because technically I'm going to use...
That's the basement.
level 0. There we go. Should have actually made... There we go. So let's go from there. So I'm just using the column spacing for now. And we've got those columns we can use there. There's slight mis-exit, but I'll see which one works the best. Let's bring your grid lines a bit forward. That's fine. Cool. This is purely just for use a pick line tool. So I'm going to pick this line there, pick that line there. Okay. And I can equal things out now. So I'm going to go split. So I'm going to split this. Now I'm going to split this guy there, 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 and there. Just trim. Use your trim. So that split line tool was this tool over here. So I'm just creating a series of little squares quickly, just to start the process. Okay, good. Now we need to create, so I might actually change that a bit, but anyway, you can see now. So I'm just going to pick, so you can start at any point. This you can change to suit, but I've got a feeling that you won't take it to the other side. You might keep a bit of... Now what's interesting is while you're busy modeling this information, you can go and switch on a center mark. And while you're working in here, you can use reference planes to kind of get this. So I can use dimensions now. I can dimension from there to the floor slab or the level, maybe the level. So now I can edit. And you can fix that now. And I can put a reference plane that goes at the top here. So in architecture, create, you can go and create like reference planes that will work. If I make a section, I can make a reference plane that works within this view. Okay, but we can just use this for now because we might just use the same. Okay, so I can just go back here, go to line. I'm just using this as a construction line so that I can always create my, or you can simply just copy the arcs the whole time and then fix them. Okay, but it's fine. I can go again, so just create another line right at the top here. So I can just use this as a construction line. I'm going to say arc from there to there. Snap P. SP, snap perpendicular. Oh, it's not doing that. It's supposed to snap perpendicular. Wait. It's trying to make a perfect arc every time. So you might find the spacing is not exactly the same. But is it, you want them to be exactly the same, the spacings?
Not really, no.
Okay, so as long as you can keep this ratio. So let me just try that again with this one, because I think this spacing here might be slightly out.
Because the two spaces on the side are slightly smaller than the one in the middle.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do in that case is, sorry. So what I'll do in that instance is leave. That's interesting. So I'm not used to this keyboard, I'm used to my, let's get rid of this guy. So we're going to start from the same point. I'll explain why. When you're trying to make an arc, it's trying to, mathematically, it's trying to see where it snaps like that. That's a perfect arc. So if you can work mathematically, went from the wrong, delete. So if you press home, it changes the zoom. So I must technically work from that line there. So from there, that's better. And then it'll snap. Good. That's better because then it's snapping at the right point. So get rid of that. And they're more or less the same. So these two might be bigger than that one, spacing wise. All right. So what we do now is trim that with that. Good. Trim that with that. Now, in order to make this arc, I might have to use the external side, but this is fine. We can trim this away now. So that needs to go to there. That will need to go to there. And this, we just need to break these lines, sort those lines out now. So let's say line between there and there. Then this one we can use trim, that one. And then this one we can just pick line tool on the edge of this. And then trim. And that with that. And that we can delete, trim. Just make sure to tab to make sure they're all closed. Now I can say finish. Then I can extrude this out a fraction. Where's that little extrusion key now? I'm just looking for the side extrusion. Little handle should be here somewhere. Okay, good. So now we can go align. So in the center, this goes back to this face here. So you can take it through. But then from the side of this, we can start cutting away the information that we don't need. Okay. So you can cut away and you can use these columns integrated. So you can actually cut away a lot. Or if you wanted to, you could have just taken this top piece and not worried about. So you could have just got rid of the top piece and made it go back and make it blend in with the column. So that's another option. But now that we've got this, that's the thing I was looking for. Good. Now that we've got the shape, now what you need to do is I would isolate this element now just with isolate element. Now from the side, I can use the side view over here and I can start cutting away what I don't want to see. Okay, so I can maybe extend this past the front a bit. Okay, and let's just say finish for now, explain why. Now, let's go to your project view. Let's go to ground floor. Now, in order to work with this better, let's just go to this section maybe. So now we can start using this section to try and determine how this cuts away and how this works. You can punch holes through this. And if you make the structure element, you can join this with the columns. So you can actually merge them as one object. Okay, so I'm just going to go and say edit in place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick a work plane. So if I go to 3D view, I'm going to use this as a work plane on the side here so I can start cutting away. So I'm going to say edit work plane, pick plane, and I'm going to pick the side of this 3D view. And let's just work like this rather so we can see. So I'm going to say create, set, pick plane. I want to pick the side of the plane, and if you say show, you know that you're working on that plane there. Okay. Now I'm going to create another extrusion for the time being because I'm going to work from here. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we can fine-tune this. And let's say from there to that floor line, you can start curving this. If you want to, you can start curving it away. So what's the exact curve that you want to? You want to do something like that and hits the column, I take it. Okay, yeah. So let's go to left view. And then I'm going to switch on wireframe because I want to see that column. So it must lie in, it must tie up with that column there.
Yeah, so it should, so with the slab there at the edge and then tie in with the column.
Okay, there and there. Okay, so let's just say, so delete, don't press home again. So basically you want to do, then that you want to go from snap end. Let's go somewhere onto there. So you want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, trim. Now, all that you do, you take that pass like that, and you pick your slab level, which was that level there. Draw a line. Trim this away. Trim that away. Now, this extrusion we can pull back for now, but I know in 3D it's going to look, what I'm doing is going to look strange. So basically what I want to do is I'm going to pull this thing past, I'm going to take this through. Then this, I'm going to tie it to the front of the building. So this extrusion, if I go to properties, because we used A, so if I make that 1, make it 0. So if I make that 0, it goes back to the A grid. Let's make it 1, 5. Now I just, here on the extrusion, because I've used that A grid, but I'm going to make it 1, 200. Just so it goes past far enough.
Like, imagine sitting in an event living by itself. I feel like, just no.
That's better. Now, this, you change this from a solid to a void. It'll go, it goes orange, and then you literally just say cut.
But you're already here. I said your name. Up here.
It's a weird way to look at it.
And
it looks like it works.
And it actually gives you that curve in the front. So let me just say finish. Now you see it's actually giving you that curve. But now you can actually separate it from this column. So you can cut away from that column there. And here you can see it actually. So maybe the arcs you want to drop a bit lower so that it curves first and then you have the. But what's neat is if you go to this extrusion now, edit in place. And you go to this extrusion, you can say edit extrusion. Now what you can do is if you go back to back view, you can simply grab these now, just like I'm doing here, and you can nudge them down.
But she sent out a new link or something like that. But I had already booked on the old link. So I was rebooked again.
And then you can say finish. So you can create a much...
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe in your case, you just want the vaults to go through and then you want columns. So you're creating like a beam where the vault ends.
Yes.
So instead of having these little legs, so in essence, basically what we can do, and what's neat is you can keep going back and editing this the whole time.
What?
I thought you got a new computer. I was like,
No. Here's my little thingy.
that's a Dex computer.
I mean, if these two were to compete in the comrades, mine would die and this one would win.
You never know.
No, sir.
That whole hair analogy, you never know. So here you're just trimming this guy like that. So this is another way to get around it. So you don't have all the structure beneath.
Shame, if there was a spoon at
Because I have already the columns in and it just needs to tie in with the columns. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if the vault's going to be really actually going to be structural or not, but
Yeah.
ideally it should be.
It depends because you can actually build it. You can actually build it without it being structural. But now you can see that it joins the columns, and then what's neat is from the side here you can from the side now you can punch out all the holes that you need.
Yeah.
Then if you want it to form part of the column, then you can make this a structural. So currently we've got this as a. So let me just say finish. So definitely doable. So you can shape this any which way. Here you see it ties in perfectly with that column. There it's got a beam underneath. So maybe that's what you want to achieve because here's another beam. So this beam you'll actually break between there and there. It'll stop underneath there. But if you want to make this, so what you can do is you can select this. And if you go to architecture, I just want to change the edit type. So when you go and edit the family, so let me show you this. You can make this a structural, so edit family. In here, if you go to manage, you can change what type of family this is. Okay. It's not there, it's in modify. Yeah. This one. You can change this from a generic model to a structural, so either structural framing or a structural column. If you make it structural framing, then what you can do is you can join. Now, provided they've got the same material as a column, if you say join,
Oh, and it's seamless.
okay, but provided this is a structural framing or column, okay, because then it's behaving like structure. But then that's cool because you actually want to join this. You maybe want to join this to the slab.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you can also punch out voids. So now you can cut like a big arc in there, or you can make it flat.
Yeah, so basically at the back where it like folds back at the 45-degree angle, do I just pull it through and then build
Then you
a
cut
void?
it. Yeah, you can pull a void and plan and then cut it away. So let me show you that. So let's go to basement level. So you want to pull a void over here where it cuts it at an angle when you come in, I take
Yeah.
it. So say now, so let's just go back to that. So go to, this is where this working view gets quite important, okay? This is where this view starts becoming. So let's say reset.
like green roof fine, like green walls fine.
But I could have stopped it straight there and only cut away to there, and then join that to that column and join that to column. You understand what I'm saying? So that cut. So maybe let me fix that quickly, then make that work a bit better. Okay, so let's just say edit in place. Now this void, if you select this guy, and I go align to this face here, and oh wait, I might have to uncut this guy. To fix these guys, what you do is you're going to go and uncut. You uncut it, align.
Because then they don't sit that weirdly as they do now.
Then this extrusion, you make sure it ends in line with this column, but you can cut it away separately. So now I can go and say cut, and then I can cut that away again to match. Okay, but I'll just explain this. Now you go cut.
Oh, Sorrento.
Then you can move the extrusion back.
Yeah, this you can match. So this now you can match to the front. So you could have maybe made another extrusion that goes in the front. It takes, you have to play with it a bit to get it to work 100%. But what I like about this option is it gives you a bit of structure here to work with. Then you can cut it away in line with this column. Okay. So
It's just annoying because I don't have a TV. I have to.
you can play. Okay, but at least you can see this is actually working really well. Now you can keep joining.
Looking nice as well.
Yeah. No, it's looking really good. Now you can join these things. Here you might find you might have to switch the columns and make sure that the columns line up perfectly.
I know, but
You know what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
think that column's gone that way instead of being that way.
Maybe.
But it's potato, potato.
At this point, I just need the vault in there so that when I cut my sections and print it out, I can
You can, yeah.
render it.
Good. Now, this guy, we're going to pull back a fraction now. Then we're going to use, so I've got this running nicely now. Now I'm going to say finish. The only problem with this is if you want to edit the section box to go a little further through your building. And you saw how I've switched off quite a few of the other things that are not required. So I'm only focusing on structural elements. So you don't have the walls in. So that VG, by switching off everything, if you want to bring it back, VG, you just go all and you just click once and it switches them all back on. Okay. And I work in hidden lines a bit now just because I can.
That works better.
Yeah. And you can also change this to perspective while you're working so you can get a better, so you can get another view of it. It's just harder to model in perspective sometimes. But now
How do you get rid of the perspective?
you just right click on the view cube and you go back to orthographic. So work in orthographic, but switch to perspective so you get a more realistic view of what's going on. Okay. Okay, cool. But this is really starting to work well. Now we need to cut away what's happening at the back here. So I'm going to go to level. So go into here, activate the in place, edit in place. Go to level 0. So here I'm going to go and just create another extrusion very quickly. So I'm going to say I want to extrude. So I'm going to pick this line here. I'm going to use structure. So maybe from there. And then I'm going to pull it at an angle. So it might come at an angle here. Just to show you how that will work.
I've seen it a couple times in previous matches, but it hasn't been bad. It seems like yesterday it was bad. But then again, it was also 5 cents. So, more opportunity for that.
The student's got it all. Sports, banter, you name it. Cool. 3D view. So this working view is that view that we used the whole time. And maybe what you do is you then focus. So here's that extrusion. So here you can say, well, actually that must just cut away that. And what is neat is you can use the lock and align tool the whole time. You can lock these together. So if this extrusion actually goes thicker, you see what it does. That moves with it. So if it's cutting it, it'll always cut it out perfectly. Align.
DSTV now doesn't work until after 6 p.m. So,
Do that.
I want to watch Djokovic today. Let's see.
Good. Now this guy, you just have to change this to avoid. Work with solids first because it will automatically cut through it, which is not always ideal because now it gives you more. You can control this more. Okay.
But because I find like a lot of times when I work with voids, then I say cut and it doesn't do it.
No.
And Revit doesn't tell me why.
Exactly. But now you see what it's done. It's actually cut away the void. And you might put a wall here now that will start working with this. You might have walls in here. This you can take further away. Okay, but now at least you see what I've done here. It's actually... Bless me, thank you. And then maybe what I might introduce is one more cut in here just to fix the column issue. So while I'm working, again, so I can go to extrude, extrusion, set, pick plane, pick this plane. So we've got that plane, show plane. So I use the show plane in the beginning so I know where I'm working.
Yeah.
Then I can just create another. So you can use multiple cuts in the same place as well. Just try and work as efficiently as possible. You know, sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. It's just a bit of a. You'll find a flow once you do this more. And if you plan it out, if you start understanding how this works, plan it out, how you're going to do it, and then it's quick. Void. And then just say cut again. Cut that and that. So you're actually working with clay, in essence. Then when you're done, then you can say join that with that.
that just
Nice.
looks...
That with that. Oh, that one. Oh no, that one is joined. Let's just see. You might find they're not exactly lined up.
that's
There,
fine.
there it's done it. You see, you see. You can join this with the floor slab, and it becomes one object as well. So when you cut through there, it will look. Now you can join that with that.
So if you join that to the floor slab, if there's already a void cutting through it, will it just automatically cut through it there?
Oh no. That you'll have to copy that and make a extrusion
Okay,
cut
so
through it. It's
probably-
not
Because I'm going to have to edit that void anyway, so I can just...
leave it, and then when you need to cut through it, that's the only downside to in-place families. Okay. But maybe you could have stopped this to this column here, because maybe once you go past that point, it becomes like a flush ceiling. Yeah, but now you've got scope. Okay, now you can really. And what I keep doing is when I'm finished the in-place family, then focus just on that little area, because now you can really focus this, and that's what this working view is for. Now I can switch to 3D again, perspective. So now you can really, and if you go Shift W, go to full cube, full navigation wheel, center this. You can center. Usually, whatever you've got selected becomes a centered object, so let's not select anything. If I go Shift W now, and I can walk through here. So you can, it's like you're walking through the space. You can pan up and down.
You also have glasses, though.
Yeah, but you should.
Yeah, but you should. That's like you're breaking your eyes.
Okay, so now you can really.
You're breaking your eyes.
Just
Okay,
save this.
Now I'm going to save it for you.
Yeah, you use spirits, man.
They're saved.
Yeah, I use
Cool.
location.
Just make sure that you match the materials. Whatever your column materials, match the material.
Probably be concrete.
Yeah,
That's a lot of concrete.
it's a lot of concrete.
You're gonna be that dad.
But they can make this look like concrete. It doesn't have to be concrete.
So what
You're
can
gonna
be
be
brick?
like holding the menu like here.
No, you can use. So what they've done, they've got it's a cladding system. It's polystyrene. They pre-mold it, and it looks like concrete, but it's lightweight. And they put like a material on the exterior, which looks like concrete, feels like concrete, but it's lightweight. They actually mold this stuff. They can.
But is it structural? Then?
No, it's not structural at all. No, purely decorative.
Because at this point it is basically purely decorative.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these cladding systems that they develop, and it's literally polystyrene. It's like they actually build this whole thing out of polystyrene and shape it. Then they coat it with something that's very durable against the
No,
sun.
because my mum actually, she met a guy who developed some form of construction technology that they now got approval for from SABS. That they're going to start it's like a polystyrene concrete blocks that they make, but it's filled with polystyrene on the inside, just with like a slide concrete and the mesh wire and reinforcement. And they say that they've tested it and it's stronger against earthquakes and winds than brick houses.
No, exactly, exactly. So parking decks on a shopping centre's roof, they've shaped polystyrene, then they just put tar over it. You can drive over it because you don't want screed to fall. The structure gets too heavy, so they use polystyrene and they shape it. So it all falls to outlets. Very super lightweight, and you put tar over, and it's
How do I show that on a drawing that this is a polystyrene structure? I guess.
Okay, let's just go to.
This is polystyrene.
Take note. Just cut a section 3. I'll just show you very quickly. This guy. So now you can see this is working in section, but because it doesn't have a material. But what you do now
is what I want, basically.
But now you can draft what it wants, because when you start drafting, so if I go to detail lines, so if you go to annotate, detail lines, guess what? If I hover a couple times, you'll see, should start picking up the whole shape. Oh, sorry, pick line, that's one. Okay, but you can offset, so let's say offset 30 mil, because it's got a skin. And then you use a fold region on the inside. I'll explain. So say now.
I know what a fold region is.
No, that's impressive, because I bet you now if I have to ask half the class, they'll be like, "What?"
Because I use it to model in soil in my views, because I don't know how to model in soil in my model.
So now that you've got the shape, so you can go to architecture. Now you can go to fold region. So annotate fold region. Now you can pick like. I'll leave the line weight the same because I can match that, or maybe you want to make it thicker. Just remember, this is linked to line weight. So let's make it line weight 3. You can delete that line weight when you're done. So in properties, make sure, I think there is an insulation one here. I'll just use the plywood one for now. Plywood. Now you can tab on this. Tab. Voila. Oh wait, yeah, these ones, just trim that. It was the only little glitch. Voila. Finish. Okay, then you can get rid of that line. Delete. Yeah, there's some stuff you guys still have to. Okay. But then you can cut away where the column sits in the background. They can also do this in. They can also do it with plasterboard.
Okay.
Okay. You get an external board that they can use, and then they build a steel frame, and they cut metal, and then they just use hangers. Similar, what I've seen them do that as well.
What's the name of those structures? Because then I can look it up.
So if you look, it's called sheet metal. I'll explain, and they make it sheet metal. So let's just say drywall. Well, they can make these with drywall. So they make a formwork, so they can use drywalling to do it. Let me just find some images quickly. And you can use a metal system. You see they build a timber structure first, but they can do it with, there, check, they're actually using a metal suspended system. So they actually make a metal grid, exactly like this. And then they cut the plasterboard with a knife, and then they skim it.
Because in that case, you can basically make vaults of any sizes.
Yeah.
No issue.
Here they're just using wood again, but it's plasterboard, and then they skim it. And you can get an external board that they do it with, and they can do all kinds of vaults with drywall. It's lightweight, but if you punch a hole through, you can punch a hole through it. That's the only thing you've got to remember. It's not super tough. It's tough, but it's not super tough.
It's fine. It doesn't need to be super tough.
Yeah, so you can use
that
drywalling
ceiling
technique.
Is 6 meters from the ground floor. I don't think people are going to reach it.
So you can see they can make some elaborate types of drywalling. Okay.
I just want the plain barrel vault at the moment.
Yeah. But that's different. So you'll show a double plaster line, and then you'll just draft in little and then hangers. So those things hang, as per that first image I showed you. But you can see you can actually put this together quite quickly.
Because that brick wall is going to end up moving in line with that, so it's going to look a bit better than it does now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but I'll leave that in there. But at any time you can reshape it, resize it. And it's not difficult to get these things in place. Just understand the work planes. You've got to establish work planes all the time.
I struggled a lot with that, and I tried to do it myself.
But what you can also do, if you go to ground floor, I'll just show you this last little technique. You can also use architecture. You can use a reference plane anywhere. So reference plane is a construction line. When you give the reference plane a name, it becomes like a work plane. So if I go to 3D view, I'll just show you this in this 3D view, and I go and say set, you'll notice it will become, if you go to reference plane here, there's that one that I've named.
Okay.
Now it becomes, and if I say show, so let's just say architecture, just make sure it's set work plane, yep, and say show. Now it's working on that plane. It's working with that, and you can rotate this grid. What's interesting about this grid, if you tab a couple times, you can select this grid and you can rotate this grid. Okay, so you can rotate this, you can change the spacing. So if I want to align this grid spacing, if I go align, and I select this grid now, watch, it realigns this grid. And this working plane grid, you can change this at any point to thousands or 100. Now you've got a 100 mil working grid. So if you zoom in, you'll see that this will be at 100. And you can snap on. It becomes like a working grid. So while you're modeling, you can make it. Okay.
I feel like I'll figure these things out as I go.
But I recorded everything I've done.